Hey guys, welcome to the Massive Iron Channel. Let me get my camera here set up. Welcome to the Massive Iron Channel. It is Massive Iron Live. We're Friday. What is it? Friday. Oh my goodness, it's Friday the 13th. Who didn't tell me? No one told me. I guess we're gonna have a little Friday the 13th action. Actually, it's my good luck day. I was born on Friday the 13th. I was born on Friday the 13th. So we will claim this. We will claim this as a good luck day. How about that? Good luck day. So I appreciate you guys joining me. Thanks for tuning in to Massive Iron Live. I'm here every Friday. A couple times a year I take off, but I'm here every Friday at 11 Eastern. 11 Eastern. So none of us want to work. So you might as well just, just put it on your work computer. Tell your wife, you're going to step out into the man cave for an hour and a half, and let's get down to business. I'm here to help, guys. So if you have any questions, post them up. Diet, training, nutrition, off topic. We welcome off topic questions. If you're new here, there are no dumb questions, no stupid questions, just awkward questions and weird questions and things like that. Seriously though, if you're new here, don't be shy about posting up a question. I'm here to help, and I don't care if I've heard it 1,000 times before. I'm here to help, so don't be shy. If your question doesn't go through, it's not me throttling you, okay? It's not me ignoring you, banning you, blocking you, whatever. YouTube can be funny sometimes. So if your question doesn't go through, just try reposting it. Do I have a banner here? Is that the right banner? Try reposting it. I thought I had my Instagram banner. No. Try reposting it or heading over to Instagram, @BenTheBarman. Slide into my DM. All right. That fancy little graphic we have down below, that high-tech graphic, that are my team of no one of myself spent 3 seconds designing. That's teammassiveiron.com. And I want to encourage you guys to join. You can head over to teammassiveiron.com. It's a big fat whopping $9.99 a month. But for it, you get daily check-ins, you get form checks, you get workout help, you get a great community, you get all that kind of stuff. So I try to put as much value. All my articles and workouts are on there for free. And we've been posting my first podcast last week. So I'm trying to provide as much value as I can. So head over there, sign up, cancel Netflix, cancel Hulu, cancel Peacock, cancel Vudu, cancel all of those services, and find a way, cancel Pornhub, find a way to get your Team Massive on. We'd love to have you. And if you're just sick of Facebook and need a good. So what's going on, guys? What's going on? What's the word for today? I guess we're officially detoxed from the whole Liver King thing. I got a Whoop, okay? So I got a Whoop band, and I was a little bit nervous about getting a band or watch or whatever you want to call it, right? It's a watch, but it's not a watch. They don't have a face. I got the Garmin, which I've had for a long, long time, and Mr. Garmin has better days, right? It's just I beat the living crap out of this. It's seen like 7,500 kilometers on the trail, and it's just been salted to no end. It's just got irreparable damage, right? So it tracks steps, it tracks sleep, but it really creates it creates a burn on my wrist, whenever I sweat. So I was over it. I can't wear it as much as I'd like. So I'm like, I'm going to try the Whoop. The Whoop doesn't track steps, but it tracks strain and sleep and all your habits and kind of stuff. And I kind of like it. I was on the fence about it, but I kind of like it. It holds me accountable a little bit more. This band is not bothering me. I don't even notice it's on. It's so light. And you can charge it right on your wrist. So what you can do, I'm not doing a commercial here, but you can just slide that right on your wrist, and you're charging it right on your wrist, which is super cool. So I don't know. It's $30 a month, right? And I was like on the fence for the watch is free. but it's like $30 a month. So I was on the fence for a while, but I pulled the trigger anyway. Blah 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 blah. Let's get into your questions. Post your questions up, okay? Post them up. Post them up now. Stein was on before I actually made this post. So Stein beat me. Reminder: if you post your question before live starts, you get a chance to win a free T-shirt or hoodie. All right. Timothy, what's going on? I almost made it first. Stein was super quick today. Happy Friday, crew. Stein beat me. So had to be first again for a change. Has to show it's like Mike Tyson coming out just to knock somebody out, just to remind people of who he is, right? I recently implemented safety bar squats in my leg days, and I was wondering if I should have the cambered position such that the weight is in front of me or behind me. I've seen some people use safety bar squats where the weight is in all cockeyed positions. Excuse me. Still recovering from a little bit of sinuses and cold. But you really just want to have it here. I'm not really sure what you mean about the weight behind you. So maybe you could kind of send me a photo of that, because I'm a little bit confused. How the weight would be behind you. All right, where are we at? I've been using it, and the weights are in front of me. Yeah, I mean, this is why I'm confused. Okay, this is why I'm confused. I'm going to show people what we're looking at so we can reference it. Okay, we'll pull up the old Rogie Roo. And let me see if I can pull up the screen. Let me see if I can share the screen so we can kind of educate ourselves together and figure out what's going on. So this is a safety squat bar, SSBs. You get under it. You can see the handles are facing away. You get under it and you put the pad on the back of your neck. That's the way it sits. I'm not sure how weights can be behind you, right? I've seen some people accidentally turn them upside down where the weights are up, and but I don't know how the weights can be behind you, to be honest with you. So I'm a little bit just confused by what you mean. That's all. All right. Sometimes on deadlifts, when I try to wedge myself into the bar, my shins, you don't have to be that far under the bar. When you look down, you only need to see about 40% of your feet. The further you are under the bar, the more your weight is going to be over the bar, your head's going to be over the bar, and you're going to put yourself in a bad leverage position. So somewhere along the line, someone told you to get your shins on the bar, and it sounds super cool. And we had bleeding shins, and we went through that whole cathartic thing. We're like, I want to be part of the cool club, which is the bleeding shins club, which is not where you're supposed to be. Okay. When you look down, when your feet are under the bar, you should see about 40% of your feet under the bar, sticking forward. You don't need to be that close. If you are, it pushes your weight, more of your body weight in front of the bar and your head in front of the bar, and that reduces leverages. Okay. Morning Massive. So what's going on? I think you might have covered this before, but any different? No. The only thing with athletes is, kids are still growing, so they just need to make sure they're not hungry and they're eating mostly good foods. But I don't generally train athletes, so I train guys that are involved in athletics and other sports, but we just try to balance their training and they're lifting, but there's no nutritional difference. There can be some differences as far as timing, like when is your workout? Do you have 2 workouts a day? Do you need some simple carbs? Do you need some complex carbs? How long are your workouts? Like if I'm doing a 2-hour run, the best thing to do is to eat some very simple carbs 45 minutes in. So, about an hour and 15 minutes and I'm not, crashing. So there can be some timing issues, but it depends if you need them, depends on how intense your workouts are. Why do you think there has been so much pushback against the regular bent over row? There's not a lot of pushback here. This is what we need to understand. I'm not being, I'm not being argumentative, but one person or two people will make a video about it, and then all of a sudden we view it as pushback as a community. It's not. It's just a couple of guys, right? The bent over row is abused a lot, and honestly, it can tear up your lower back. There's a limited range of motion compared to the pendlay row. It's not my favorite exercise. When done right, I really don't care if somebody uses it. It's fine. Strength is strength, right? But there's always pushback against some exercise, and it's never ending in this industry. And I'm not going to analyze. I'm not going to go around and analyze why we continue to push back against exercises, right? I mean, you listen to this industry, and there's no good exercises left, and I'm over it. We're going to be reasonable. I program pendlay rows or barbell rows in every one of my clients' programs. You get strong on them; it's good for you. And I'm not going to be part of the sky is falling. Let's not do this good lift because my calculations show that you are a 2% greater negative angle on your lower back. And you're like, blah, 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 blah. Let's fucking lift and get strong and ignore all this bullshit, right? Right? I mean, if somebody doesn't want to use bent over rows and they don't feel good, that's fine. They're not mandatory. There's no mandatory lift. And regular bent over rows, look, they're easy to cheat and they're easy for the average individual to not get a lot out of, but so are squats, right? There's not a lot of guys getting a lot of quality, gains from squats. You can do that with any exercise. That doesn't make the exercise, when done correctly, a bad thing. So just to reiterate, the pushback is from one or two people, right? And they have a right to their opinion. Crom, bless them, right? But it's not a full force pushback. It's one or two people in the corner that don't like the lift for whatever reason, decide to make a video about it. Chest supported rows, okay. It's a good mid card lift. It is. It's a good mid card lift. There's nothing wrong with the chest supported row. There's nothing wrong, but you still need a pull up if you can. You still need a dumbbell row. I would get the pendlay row in there all day long. You get a strong pendlay row, it's going to, you get strong on, like if your pendlay row is 4 or 5 by 5, you're going to imagine what your deadlift's going to be. Strength builds strength, right? And too many of these guys look at a tree and they can't remember what the forest looks like. So God bless them, Godspeed to them. But we are looking at the forest and it's a big some bitch, right? It's a big some bitch. And we're gonna cut down the forest, not a tree. And we're gonna use all the tools we can. And if we like pendlay rows, we're gonna use the heck out of pendlay rows. Do I use them every week? No, I alternate them with dumbbell rows, but they're a good lift. 3 days, what's going on? Speaking of, I thought that said pendlay row. Like, speaking of pendlay row, I can't read. Do you have the peanut butters? No. If so, what do you prefer spreading it on? Do you have peanut butter? What do you prefer spreading it on? These are kind of non-congruous. Questions. I don't know, right? They're like two train tracks that kind of go in different directions, and the train just kind of fell off and everybody died. Do you have peanut butter? No, I do not have the peanut butter. I don't like peanut butter. If so, okay, so there's a qualifier. I do not, but if I did, what do you prefer spreading it on? Nothing. Don't like peanut butter. Not a fan of the peanut butter. Not a fan at all. And the only thing I would spread it on is the garbage can. Big Bob Fish, loving my progress on threes. That's great. I'm glad to hear it, Bob. How long can I expect to run it? You can run it forever, man. I mean, as long as you enjoy it. The good thing about threes, and for those of you guys that don't know what they are, is you start out with a set where you can do about, this is starting, okay? You start with a set you can do about 7-8 reps with, and you do max safe quality reps, right? Not pushing to failure, not killing yourself at the expense of good form. Second set, you drop weight 10%. It's a back down set or a back off set, and you do max safe reps. And third set, you drop 10%, do max safe reps. And the beautiful thing about this protocol, well, there's a couple things. The back down sets are going to feel lighter because of your central nervous system is already highly stimulated from the first set. So you're going to back down weight, and there's like a psychological boost, right? You get 3 sets as well to attack, and that gives you 3 opportunities to hit a +1. So it's a very sustainable form, reasonable and sustainable form of progression. And you can keep running it as long as you want. I ran it until age 50. That's what I used basically when I was at my strongest up until age 50. I'd work up. I didn't do it, like specifically exactly like the threes protocol. Let me move my microphone a little bit closer. Like my clients do, or like you do, but I would work up to a max triple, quad, 5, whatever I felt like that day. And then I would back down. So on bench, I would work up to maybe 365, 385, 485 for max reps, back down to 315 for max reps, back down to 275 for max reps, back down to 225 for max reps. So yeah, man, you can run that as long as you want. What's going on, type O, negative, or Tipion? Happy Friday. What's going on? Scotty Mac, Scotty MC, big Scotty MC. All right, big fella. My wee cousin has bought her son a pull-up bar. Okay, that's a step forward. Nothing better than seeing them start young. Nope. Give them a little challenge, get them out of the video game throne, doing some pull-ups. All they need now is peanut butter, and they're good to go. Peanut butter. Not a fan of the peanut butter. Don't hate me. MG254. Happy Friday, everyone. This is probably a stupid question, but how much of my 1 rep max should I be lifting while in a cut? Well, you really don't. Like if you're in a cut, number one, a cut is usually a short-term adventure. What I suggest in a cut is drop all intensity techniques, supersets, drop sets, rest, pause. Just let's save that for the bulk, okay? In general, unless you're very, very, very obese and you got a long journey. So you want to steal the easy progress, okay? Let's say you're doing barbell curls and you're on rep 9 and you're like, oh, I can get rep 10. Grab it, take the progress. If it's like rep 9, was extremely strenuous, then don't push. Save those big grinder pushes for when you're in a bulk, when you're back in a bulk. Steel Rat, what's up, big hairy ugly dude? Thank you for joining in. Do you think push-pull legs can work with 4 workouts per week? Yeah, what I normally do, there's a couple things you can do. You can have a push-pull legs, and you can just rotate between those 3 workouts 4 days a week, inserting rest days where it makes sense. You can have 2 variations of the push-pull legs, which I do for my clients, just to get them some exercise variety. And you can rotate between those 6 workouts 4 days a week. You can do push-pull arms legs, which is kind of takes a little bit of the pressure off the push, because the push can get a little bit, how would you say, bloated, right? You got your chest, you got your shoulders, and then you try to get your tricepticons in there, and it's a big bloated workout. And in my opinion, that's the biggest flaw. And when I say flaw, I don't mean the workout is useless. So let's not be irrational or let's not be crazy and put words into my mouth. That's the biggest flaw, but it still can be a good workout. You just have to be aware of that. You have to be cognizant of that. You have to have, when you're programming, you have to make sure you kind of can figure that out. So a push-pull arms legs take some of the tricepticons off the push day, and opens up a little bit. You know, your arms day, push-pull arms leg can be a junk day as well. You can do calves, forearms, face pulls, waiter, dumbbell curls, right? Whatever you want. Would upper lower be much better? Upper posterior, I like. I don't like 2 lower body days a week because the upper day is bloated. I think the upper lower is kind of a dated concept, and that's going to trigger somebody. But, you know, if you're looking at, you have 2 leg days, number one, a week, and you have 2 upper days, which is super intense. You have back, shoulders, chest, arms. You know, that's a lot to squeeze in. So there are better ways to do it. That's why I came up with the upper posterior as an alternative. There's still flaws in my upper posterior, but you just have to be aware of it. There's going to be flaws in nearly any structure because they sound really good on paper, right? Push, pull, legs, it sounds good and logical, and it's divided into 3 and everything's perfect, and the butterflies are flying around in the meadows and everything sounds good. But in reality, you know, the legs, good day. The push or the pull, it's like a back day. But then the push is just a bloated mess. So, upper posterior is probably your better option. It just allows a little bit more breathing room. It's that push day that drives me crazy. Rico, what's going on, Rico? Get on Team Massive if you haven't already. If you're not on Team Massive, we're all laughing at you. Not really. Join Team Massive. If you're tired of Facebook, this is a community, right? It's not just one guy writing stuff and everybody else going, yes, sir, right? We have a community. And with the community, you can get some benefits. You get access to my stuff. And we have good conversations. We have topics of the day. You can send forum videos for critique. It's, you know, and it's $9.99 a month. Come on, it's a good value, you know. So if you haven't joined, you know, it's a hard sell. Everybody's getting rammed on everything. You know, my clients get it for free. And I'm surprised not more people have signed up for Team Massive Iron. We have a big community. But compared to, you know, how many people watch this channel and how many times I mention it, it's just a little bit lighter than I expected. All right, that's okay. We're not about numbers. Let me get that banner off. We're about community. What do we got here? Sorry, trying to find the question. What are the best? I don't like the word best accessories for the deadlift. Not specific exercises. They're more conceptual in nature. You want to get your quads big. You want to get your back and yoke as strong as humanly possible. The deadlift is a unicorn lift, so you want to get really everything as strong as possible. When I heavy deadlift, I can hear my ears and my sound sometimes just warping in my ears. You know, I can feel my chest. I can feel a lot of things working. So the deadlift is a unicorn lift, but if somebody really wants to get up their deadlift, I'm going to tell them to get their back really strong, and we can gauge that by how strong their pendley rows are and their dumbbell rows are. That's a really good gauge of how good your deadlift strength is going to be. Because look, if you can, at my peak, I pendley rode. If you walk in, at my peak, I pendley rode 4 or 5 by 5. Okay, and like if you walk into a gym and you see me pendley rowing 4 or 5 by 5. And I'm not trying to pat myself on the back. We're just having a discussion, right? We're just having a discussion to frame this. If you walk into the gym and see Joe Schmuckelmeyer pendley rowing 4 or 5 by 5, you know he's probably deadlifting 600 pounds because that dude's just pendley rowing 4 or 5, right? And that's not even your deadlift max. What kind of Trenbolone is he on, right? What kind of turkey steroids is he on? So if you walk into the gym and you see a lifter doing 135 by 5 on the pendley row, you're going to assume he probably is struggling to get over 200 on his deadlift. So strength builds strength. The deadlift is a unicorn lift, meaning you want to get the big muscles as strong as possible. And then you want to get strong on the actual lift. So quads and back are my big focus. And I like having a strong yoke, because when your yoke is weak or your upper back is weak, there's going to be a tendency for your body to want to protect the spine and to want to let that weight to fight against you. There is some science that actually shows this, that grip strength is related to back strength. And when your back is strong, your body will be more willing to hold a weight. If your back is weak, and it just makes kind of sense physiologically, your body's going to try to protect your spine, right? So grip strength and overall deadlift strength, you really have to get your back strong and your yoke strong. Do you have any lifts in your program mostly for enjoyment's sake? I do. I don't know. Do I do any lifts that are everything's for enjoyment? First off, I mean, everything I do, I like. So I guess you could say my whole program structure is set up that way, you know. But the things I like are the big things, So do I have just any pet exercise that no, I can't mentally do it. I just can't. I can't. I've tried some of them, the face pulls. Like, nah, we good, man, we good. I don't, there's no. I've tried all the lifts. I say, if anything, I don't know. This is a hard one. There's no real lifts. All my lifts are things I give my clients. They're just things I like things I really believe in. So no, I would say no. Done deal. How do you know when to add weight or perfect? How to know when to add weight or perfect form? I'm not sure what you mean. Maybe you can clarify. Weight is determined by numbers. Okay. So if you have a progression approach and it says when you hit this trigger, you move up in weight. That's what you do. There's very few lifts where your form is so bad where we need to not worry about progression for a while. Usually those are squats or deadlifts. Everything else, if your squat or deadlift is 90%, we're going to progress while working on form. Because if you're squatting, say, 265 and you just have some minor issues like a little bit of forward bar sway, like we're dialing in your foot angle a little bit, that's not critical. You're unlikely to get injured. So we're going to kind of, dial that in under fire. We don't want to back off to 135, because there's not a lot of weight pushing against you. Excuse me, at that point. So does that make sense? What's your take on psyching up? My take, this is going to sound like glorified bullshit, but I mean, I like working out, man. I'm psyched just to be down there. Look, there are some days where I'm like, I feel like a can of dragging ass, right? Dragging ass. That'd be a good t-shirt idea, dragging ass. Right? Sometimes you just come up with brilliant ideas that no one will buy. Dragging ass, but there's some days I have dragging ass, but for the most part, man, my whole workout's aside. Like I'm so excited to be. I love getting strong. I love moving weights. I love to see what I can do. Bad practice, I don't know. Whatever works for you guys, right? Whatever you enjoy. This is about enjoyment. It's just fitness. Do some silly things. Snort your, stuff that makes you excite, right? Whatever you want to do. Smelling salts or cocaine, I guess you could do that if that's your thing, pre-workout. But just humor, folks. But bad practice, nah. I would say, well, anything could be a bad practice if you're taking it too far. If you're like wrapping your balls with a rope and squeezing them so you feel extreme levels of extreme levels of aggression or pain. I'm awake now. I bet you are. But not really. I mean, it would have to be pretty bizarro for it to be taken too far. Clo. For an intermediate lifter wants to bulk for 2 to 3 years straight. That's a long bulk. How many pounds a month? But it can be, look, that's the way I did it when I started. I was a skinny kid. I was like 154, 152, 155. I don't know. Somewhere around that range. I didn't weigh myself every day, but I knew I was around that range. That's what I did the first 2 or 3 years. So you kind of want to have a goal. Look, in a perfect world, you could gain 16, 8, and 4 pounds of muscle your first 3 years. In a perfect world, no one will gain that other than the freak, the fluke. That's 28 pounds of muscle. So that guy, if he gained 36 to 40 pounds of muscle or weight, would be good to go. If you're going to train 2 to 3 years, it's got to be, 10 pounds every 3, 4. I don't, that's a long, slow bulk, right? It just is. So, you're probably looking at 40 pounds. It's going to have to kind of, I don't know. I don't feel it's the best way to do things anymore. I just don't. The thing with the 10-pound bulks, when you bulk 10 pounds over 3, 4, 5 months, and then you take a little bit of a break, do a quick mini cut, a quick reset, give your body a chance to heal, is you can gain 10 pounds every 4 months without it getting you fat. And that's 30 pounds a year. That's going to be more optimal in the long run than gaining 40 pounds over 3 years. Does that make sense? So, yeah, this is how I did it. But can you do it that way? Absolutely. I have nothing against it, but you're probably going to have to be a lighter weight lifter. And you're probably going to gain about 40 to 50 pounds in 3 years. If you start at 135, that's fine. I just think gaining the 10 pounds every 3, 4, 5 months and then doing a quick mini cut for 2 to 3 weeks and 4 weeks in and back on is a better way. How come Alpha Destiny and others keep progressing, but after 3 years, I barely made progress? That's not what I said. I said after 3 years, I was close to my natural potential. I still kept making progress. That's not what I said at all. So what I said was I was fortunate enough to be training right and eating right and sleeping right out of the gate, and I made a lot of progress my first 3 years. But I would say I was ahead of them my first 3 years, so they were playing catch up a little bit. That's not a dig. Alpha really hasn't gained a lot of muscle the last 3 years, so that's just reality. It's the same thing. So it's not like I barely made progress. He claims it's because it's fresh. If you look, Alpha is one of my favorite people. And I would have to look at his physique from 4 years ago, but I don't think it's that different. Okay? I don't. I think I was one of the lucky ones. I don't think I was skilled. I don't think I was a genetic freak. I think I was simply lucky, like a blind squirrel finding a nut, that I was eating a lot and sleeping a lot and training hard. And I made 90% of my, I don't know if it's 90%, 88, 85, whatever, my first 3 years. It's around that range, right? But I still made progress. That ended around 89, 90. Then I went in the military. But by 99, I had benched 435. My bench was still going up between 97 and 99. 97, 99, I was still making strength gains. I was dumbbell overhead pressing 120s for 5s. So, yeah, special programming works for him. My special programming worked for me. It's called training evolution, right? Each of us is going to start out at point A, and this is why I stress training evolution. And we're going to find what works, what doesn't, what feels good, what jacks up our lower back, what variation we like of this, that, and the other thing. And we're going to evolve our training based on what's happening in the gym. So at the end of the day, after 5 years, if you've made good gains, you're going to have special programming, right? I don't know. I don't know what he said, so I'm not. Me and him usually get along on everything, so I don't know context. Okay, but I'll just kind of leave it at that. Steve is one of the only channels that hasn't flip-flopping advice. Thank you. So many other gurus kept pushing high frequency, for example. Thank you. I've always pushed everything. I've always pushed things bigger than frequency, right? And over the years, it's pissed people off on both sides of the fence. When I started out working for Muscle and Strength, and you guys can backtrack and watch my videos, I was 12, 13 years old. People, I was back then, we were, on the forums, my forum, we were talking about the viability of frequency training, the viability, because it was a scandalous idea back then. And now we're talking about the viability of bro splits. And the truth is, none of it really matters over a long period of time. And if you believe it does, it doesn't. It doesn't matter over the long run. It doesn't matter. Consistency and progressive overload and hard work and nutrition and sleep and evolving your training based on needs. You get a guy, you get two guys. If I could take a pool of 10 lifters, okay, and one is body part split only and one is full body only or upper lower, whatever, upper posterior, and we nail our sleep for 5 years and we nail our nutrition, I control their nutrition and diet, and we get them in early and they understand hard work, and we get them on a progression plan, we get them on a good exercise selection, and they're consistent. We keep them healthy, we live to fight another day. After 5 years, they're going to be equal. They're going to be equal because frequency does not matter over time. We wish it did. Some people wish it matters more than it does. But in the long run, it does not matter, because muscle building, the further in you go, the less and less you get out of it, right? You start with this as your natural potential. And for every little bit you take out, you still have that much left. And after over 5 years, it doesn't matter if you're doing a full body, upper, lower, push, pull, legs, combination of everything. It does not matter. It simply doesn't. Let's be reasonable and rational here. It doesn't matter. It does. I'm not just pulling this out of my ass because I've seen every side of the fence. Right? Back in the early days, everyone did body part splits. 98% of people I talked to had successful results on body part splits. And the argument back then against them was that the steroid guys are using them, but when I do them, they don't work. Well, when the average Joe was doing them, he wasn't being consistent and nailing his nutrition. It's the same thing with full body workouts, There's always a fall off. There's always people not doing it. Why did you never get shredded at least once in your life to see what you would have looked like? Man, I've been shredded several times. I didn't set a goal at 9%, but I think I was pretty shredded compared to the average person. Let me just post some pictures. Okay, so we'll present the old screen share, and this is not 9%. I'm not going to pretend it is and insult you guys, but that's good enough for me. That's all I wanted to look like, right? Want to look like that's why don't you want to look like me, right? It's a valid question, though. When I was early in my training days, I was probably around 14 to 16%. I have photos of it. Nothing amazing, When I was in the Army, I had abs. I had abs a couple times. It just wasn't a goal, I know what I look like, because I've been close enough. And I don't know. If it disappoints you, it disappoints you. But I've accomplished a lot in my life, and my goals are my goals. I've I've run 7,500 kilometers in 3 years. I did multiple 50Ks and 100K. I ran an entire year for a paralyzed boy to raise money. I did a dramatic 100-pound body transformation. I became one of the strongest lifters in the world at the time, at least in the top couple hundred. I've had a good run. But, bodybuilding, I've just never, life got in the way. I had 17 years where I was married and had kids, and I'm not making excuses, but we all have a different journey. I went in the military, and never did I have a journey where I was like, I want to get down to 9%. After I got out of my marriage, I just didn't want to be depressed, right? I just wanted to live because type 2 diabetes nearly killed me. In that context, it wasn't like, let me get to 9%. I didn't even try to get shredded. I didn't even try to end up with a body transformation. I just tried not to die. So when I was a kid, I went in the military, and then I went off and got married and had a career and was trying to raise money, and 9% just wasn't on the radar. I liked lifting. I always liked being a little bit bigger. And that's not an excuse. That's just what I like, right? So why do I power shrug? Range of motion deteriorates as the set goes, but I can do for quite a while. Don't worry about it. Like, here's the thing with traps. Like, obviously, if you're sloppy and you're kind of doing this more than you are actually shrugging, if you're just twitching like you're having a seizure, that's obviously not good. You want to have some of this range of motion, right? I know it looks a little bit awkward on video, but you need that range of motion. Traps have a limited range of motion, okay? Like a curl, that's a range of motion, right? When you curl your arm, look at the range of motion. When you bench, look at the range of motion, right? When you shrug, look at the range of motion, right? So inherently built into a bench press or a curl is, and we don't want to get down the time under tension rabbit trail because it generally doesn't matter. It's a byproduct of proper training, but it takes time to move it from point A to point B. So that inherently involves hard work or time under heavy weight. So, excuse me. A shrug, you have a limited time under heavy weight. So one of the best ways to grow your traps is to add either reps or higher reps or more tension, more weight, more time under tension, more time under stress. So I'm not worried about partial reps at the end. I'm worried about overall brutality for traps. Traps are kind of a unique beast. So I don't really count reps on traps. I don't really get obsessed with them. So if you're doing like 10 reps and they're really quality, power shrug, and then they get kind of like halfsies, it's at the end of the set. Just use that to pound your traps into dust. John, I've heard some influencers say that if you don't do well in your first year of training, it takes. No, that's silly. That's ignorance on their part. They haven't. I'm just going to be honest, and this might sound controversial, but they have no clue what they're talking about. You don't right? If you don't have a good first 2 years or 3 years, your gains don't disappear. Your natural potential always remains your natural potential, right? It's like anything else. You were born with a potential, and with muscle, we all pretty much have a pretty similar potential. And it doesn't go away. It's not like use it or lose it. This is your natural potential. This is the way I like to say it. This is the amount of gains you have over the course of your life. Now, from what we understand of most of the research, and this is a general concept, this is not a carved in stone rule, but it is a good general rule to remember because it's pretty accurate. Whatever you have left to gain, you can gain probably maximum of that the coming year. So if you're a noob and you have 32 pounds of muscle to gain over the course of your life, you have the potential to gain maybe up to 16 the first year of your training. But how many people do that? Not many at all, because it's too hard. All the stars have to align. The right program, progressive overload, sleep, food, everything has to be in place for that to happen. So let's say you're Johnny Dickwad, right? You're Johnny Dipshit, and you waste your first 2 years, and you're like right here, and you're like, woe is me. You still have the potential to gain half of that your third year. So that's reality. That's a physiological reality. Any influencer that, they're not dumb. They just don't know what they're talking about. That's as simple as you can say it. They're just speaking on something that they aren't fully educated on. Big John, you said in an older Q&A that you would measure your chest, shoulders, neck circumference so that natural lifters can have a reference point. I've measured my chest. I think it's 48. Shoulders, I can remember 54, 56. And neck's like 18 and a half. So, but I was a fatty. I've measured everything at some point in time, but I would have to do a checkup. My wife does it whenever she fits me for a suit because she's a seamstress. What's the worst lifting myth of all times, in your opinion? The worst myth, one that I used to have to battle. To say that I was at the forefront of natty potential is kind of an understatement, right? Back in the day, there was just a small band of heroes, right? It sounds ridiculous, but back, understand I'm old AF, okay? So back in the day when we were talking about natural potential, it was a new concept to many people. And when we would talk about natural potential, you'd get a lot of ha 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 ha. Did you like that? Right? You get a lot of people are like, I can get as big as Jay Cutler if I only train hard enough, and I'm going to show you that your natural potential theories are bung, right? Dung, bung, whatever. I used to get that like 100 times a day when I would mention natural potential. I felt like a nail in a room full of hammers, right? It was like, yep, just pound away. I felt like I was invited to some epic gangbang where I was the nail and everybody was the hammer. So that used to be the big myth. I can get as big as I want if I only train hard enough, and don't you steal my thunder, right? That's the way it used to be. Excuse my epic voice, but that used to be the big myth. The biggest myth nowadays is like people worrying about training frequency. Like we spend way too much time obsessing about something that means like this, it's a trivial factor. It doesn't matter much at all. Not over the course of like let's look at two cars, okay? We build two cars that are designed to, we'll call them cross country. They're designed to drive cross country for speed and precision. They're just for comfort. They're just designed to go, from New York to California. Okay. So one car tries to focus a little bit more on steering, right, and handling and so on and so forth. The other car puts about maybe a little bit more in the tires, right? So the tire people are like, our tires are optimal. And the other car doesn't have optimal tires. Therefore, we're far superior. Well, if you drive both of these cars from New York to Hollywood, and one car is optimal, the training frequency car, right? It's not going to make that much of a difference over a long period of time. It's minor, but we try to blow this up into such a major thing, and it's not. A car is a good analogy because there's so many factors involved in training. It's not like you can just hang your hat on training frequency and do whatever you want. And it doesn't work like that. There's too many other variables. Hard work and progression and consistency and nutrition and sleep. You do that, man, you're going to get where you want to go. Doesn't matter if you got bald ass tires. All right, Doc Fit. Really enjoy your channel. Thank you. I appreciate that. Faz was talking about grinding if you hit a plateau with a certain lift instead of quickly switching exercise. I don't like switching exercises. There's only so many good exercises. So switching exercises is generally not like when you're an advanced lifter looking for, to bring your squat from 500 to 600, then you might have to try some things out. Okay. But for the average lifter to get to 99% of wherever they want to go, there's no exercise switching required. There's no complicated calculus or math required. I don't believe in plateaus really if somebody's training hard, because things slow down over time. We have natural rates, acceptable, reasonable rates. And the problem is we equate a reasonable rate with a plateau. So let me explain. You bench press 315 right now, right? You reach the 315 crowd. Very good, very good, right? You get the golf clap, okay? You got the 315. Great job. I don't care if you got there in a year and a half, 5 years, 10 years, whatever. Right? You get the golf clap. So excuse my bad humor. It's I'm genetically inferior when it comes to humor. So you get the 315. And now you find, like, what's an acceptable rate of progression? Okay. Are you plateaued? Okay. An acceptable rate of progression at that point. Like that's arbitrarily say an acceptable rate of progression is 20 pounds on your bench. Once you've hit 315, 20 pounds on your bench every year. Well, in 10 years, you would add 200 pounds on your bench. You'd be benching 500. How many people that bench 315 are likely to bench 500? Not many. 1, 2, 3, right? So, but I thought 20 pounds a year was a reasonable rate of progression. It's going to continue to slow and it's going to continue to get harder. That's not a plateau. That's physiological reality. So at that point, when you are in the mega grind, right, it's not a plateau, right? A plateau is a bad word. You're in a fight for your life, right? You are in the fight for your life. You want to go from 315 to 365. Some people will be able to do it really easily, the 1%ers. The rest of us, it could take 2 years. It could take 10 years. It could never happen. So not a plateau, and switching exercises isn't a magical cure. Does that make sense? Pooey. Sorry. Pooey. Sorry. I can't help it. I'm not trying to offend you, just being silly. How relevant is the biological law of accommodation for intermediate advanced lifters? There's only so many good lifts. There's only so many good lifts. This is nothing you ever have to worry about. The body acclimates when there's no progression in the mix. So you do cable crossovers. Okay. First 2 weeks, I have a great feel. Yippee. Right? I have a great feel. Yippee. I have a great feel in my cable crossovers. With my 20 pounds, I have a great feel and great stimulus, and I'm going to keep my cable crossovers. Yippee. Right? You got your good feel on your cable crossovers, right? Yippee. But they're not an exercise you can really, let's say you have really crappy equipment at your gym. They're not an exercise you're going to see a lot of progression on. So a month from now, you're still doing 20 and you're like, yippee, right? You gain like 2 reps. When you stagnate in progression, the body's going to be completely acclimated to the stimulus, pretty much. and there's not going to be a lot you're getting out of it. So that's why we want to choose exercises that have a big progression window. We need to understand the things slow over time, like we were just talking about with plateaus. Things slow over time. So nothing you ever need to worry about. You don't need to do tempo changes, and you can't override, slowing. Like, a tempo change is a temporary fix. Let's say you get to 275 on bench and you believe you've reached the biological law of accumulation or accommodation. Sorry, I'm a little bit tired. I was working till 2 a.m. last night. Let's say you get to 275 on bench and you believe you've reached the biological law of accommodation. So you slow your reps. 3 weeks, your body's acclimated to that. Your body is going to acclimate to any form of progressive overload or change in stimulus very, very quickly. And then you have to revert back to progressive overload. Does that make sense? Dr. AJ, what's going on? Clo. Are sumo wrestlers really? No. That study's ancient, outdated, and it wasn't done accurately. And I can't believe we're still talking about it. There was a study back in the day that showed, right, that sumo wrestlers had as much muscle mass as natural bodybuilders. This is like ancient. We're talking well over 16 years, maybe 20 years now, unless somebody did them. But the measuring they did on the sumo wrestlers was completely inaccurate because it showed they had more muscle mass. That showed basically they had the muscle mass equivalent of like Arnold. So it's a silly study. People that are fat, look, when you gain weight, this isn't true for everybody, but when you gain weight, you don't just always gain fat, right? You can gain muscle as well. So eating more facilitates muscle, and depending on what you're doing, you could gain muscle as well as fat. So that's a possibility as well. That's why you see a lot of chunky monkeys lose weight and they're a little bit stronger because they gained some muscle mass when they were eating themselves to death. Clo, faster bulking, 3-4 pounds a month. Well, the more food you have, the more you're going to set yourself up for success. And you don't really have to cut for longer. What we want to do when we're talking about optimal bulking is, number one, we want to reduce long-term cuts because hashtag long-term cuts suck, right? Ain't nobody want to do a 40, 50-pound cut. They suck. They're hard. Most people fail. That's the reality. So mini cuts are more sustainable. Our motivation's high. It's easier to knock off 10 pounds. We can get in, get out, boom, 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 done. It's easier. It's easier mentally, and it's easier from a sustainability standpoint. So what we want to do is we want to maximize the time we are in a bulk during the year. This will help us maximize muscle gain. If you did a 40-pound Ripito bulk, right, and you were like GOMAD for life, hashtag GOMAD for life, and you gained 40 to 50 pounds in 6 months. That took you 6 months to lose that fat and get your body fat and your health back in order. You are bulking, building muscle, because bulking equals building potential to build muscle. You're building muscle, the potential to build muscle 6 months out of the year. If you That's if you do aggressive fat bulks. If you do it my way and you gain 10 pounds over 3, 4, 5 months and then do a quick 10-pound mini cut, you have the potential to bulk 9 to 10 months out of the year. Now, one might say bulking 12 months out of the year is optimal. Not really, because you're eventually going to come back to the long-term, need to do a cutting diet, and you're going to have a bigger one. It's going to be more challenging. So we have to look at that, and everybody has to balance that out. But we want to maximize the number of months each year we're in a calorie surplus, because, hey, being in a calorie surplus is, excuse my language, hide the kids, put your fingers in your ears if you don't like naughty words. Being in a calorie surplus is fucking fun, right? It's fucking enjoyable. I like to eat the foods, right? I like to put foods in my mouth. Being in a calorie surplus is very nice, right? Much excite. So, yeah, silly Borat references, I know. But do you really want to cut 6 months in the following year? We want to maximize the bulk without losing our health. And that's the system I have right now, massive bulking. You can find, just search bulk there. It's the best system I've come up with. Is it the best system ever? Will it be refined over time? Maybe. But it's the best system I've come up with to put you in a bulk most of the year, to keep your body fat and your weight about the same, and improve your body composition. All right, so that's it. And I'm going to give you the free t-shirt or hoodie. So you head over to Instagram at Ben the Barman, at Ben the Barman. Email me, benthebarman@gmail.com. Email me, benthebarman@gmail.com. I'll give you a free t-shirt or hoodie. All right, guys, we're about an hour in. We're going to roll on. Thank you, Yvonne. We're going to roll on. I will stay on as long as you silly peoples. Whoa, we got a ton of questions coming up, man. This is going to be great. You guys are really active today, and thank you so much. I appreciate it. We're going to roll on. We probably got another hour left. Post up your questions. I will literally stay on here all day long. I love what I do. I can't stop doing it. Really, man, I was working till 2 a.m. last night. Ask the Team Massive members, Stein, that were up that later, Ozspas from Australia. You know, I was doing client workouts from 11 a.m. to 2. Legit, this is the way my night went. We needed a break about 7, so me and the wife got sushi, and we decided to have 2 beers. We celebrated massive fitness equipment, landed a shipping account. So we're going to be able to ship reasonable prices on my fitness equipment to US and Canada. We were like, whew, stress relieved. So we watched the movie, and the movie was only an hour and a half. I had 2 beers and sushi. Movie was done. Wife went to bed, and I worked from 10:30 to 2. And I don't like to get into the grind culture. I just like lifting, man. I like lifting. I was doing client workouts, all that kind of stuff. So, yeah. Join Team Massive. Before we move on, guys, if you want coaching, I'm pretty much booked up, but I have room maybe for 1 or 2 more if you get in this weekend, but I'm cutting off the valve after this weekend. You want t-shirts, you want supplements. I'm not a supplement company, but if you want quality whey protein or creatine and you don't want to support the big guys, you want to support one of the smaller guys. Look, you're literally putting only $5 in my pocket. I don't have that much markup because I'm not any big name. And come get some massive iron apparel. It's some of the best. I put together some of the best apparel, and I don't mark my prices up. I make like $2-3 on t-shirts. So check that stuff out over at superlivingtoday.com. Richard Murray from Scotlandia. Have a great weekend. Thank you. Thank you. Patrick Julius. Thoughts on seal rows? Yeah, they're a fine exercise. If you can get them set up right and correctly and they give you a good back feel, 100%. Big Adonis Slim. How would you recommend a return to the gym after a bad motorcycle crash? Wow. Man, no broken bones. That's a good thing. I would go slow the first 2 weeks. First week, maybe 2 workouts, moderate weight. Just get the body moving, get past the soreness. Next week, 3 workouts, moderate weight. Okay. And don't rush yourself. Have fun. See what hurts, what doesn't hurt, what you can do, what your body doesn't like to do, and then slowly ramp up from there. Big Vince Jackson, Action Jackson. I've been doing 3 workouts a week. Chest, tries, legs, back, shoulders. It's okay if your weekly balance is fine. All that matters is your weekly volume and that it's working for you. So 3 days a week is fine as long as the balance works for you. Big Rick 00. Are 1-arm dumbbell rows enough to grow my traps? I don't like looking at things like that. Like if we want big traps, we want to attack it with multiple weapons. This is something I posted on social media yesterday. We want to have multiple prongs of attack. Deadlifts can contribute to that to a minor degree. Things like RDLs are putting our traps under stress. Overhead presses are putting our traps under a minor degree of stress. But you want to have some shruggies. You want to have some shruggies in the mix if you're after some trapezoids. Big Ben Maruski. Sorry, just being a smartass. Merceri. Hey, man, what are your thoughts on Jay Vincent? No idea who he is. 1 to 2 sets per body. Oh, this guy. No. We don't do generic absolute training of failure because that's naive, right? The demands of every exercise are different. There's no need to train to failure. And we're making up some dogmatic bullshit. It's not that it can't work. It can work. But it's not magic. It's just some guy's narrow way of doing things that's not going to work for most people. Like I could make one system. People ask me, well, like, why do you have 200 different workouts? Because when you come into the buffet of massive iron, right, we're going to give you tons of choices. Which one gets you excited? Run it, right? We're not going to give you one size fits all. You only must do 1 to 2 per sets per body part per week and do this and that and negatives and train to failure because it's bullshit. There is no single way. So if somebody likes a certain way and you like to train that certain way, then train that certain way. I have a hard gainer workout that I put out a couple weeks ago that has 2 sets per body part. It's okay when done correctly. The trouble we get in is when somebody, and I'm not saying Jay Vincent said this, I'm just saying when someone says this is the way, I am the way, the truth, and the light. I am the Jesus of the fitness world, and this is the best. When they say that, it's bullshit. Your red alert needs to go off. There is no best. They don't understand training. They don't understand the bigger picture. And quite frankly, they're full of shit. Patrick, do you ever stop short of lockout? And there's no reason. That's not going to protect your shoulder health. It's some nonsense. That's like locking out is not going to grind your shoulders to a halt. It's silliness, right? It's way overthinking. It's not going to harm your shoulder. What harms us is when we do the same exercise and we beat the living crap out of our body with crap form. Lockouts are not going to hurt anything. This is just paranoia, nonsense, and silliness. It's when we beat up our body with repetition or bad form. Josh, Big Josh, Megaroids, T-bar rows. I tend to get more upright as the weight gets heavier. Yeah, well, I don't know if you're doing them at home, Josh, or you're doing them on a T-bar station. I have a T-bar station which has a foot pad that has an angle, right? So you can kind of push this way. And when you're standing up on a T-bar, the torso is going to be like this, okay? So if you get a foot pad that is like that as well, you're kind of at that 90-degree angle. Does that make sense? Foot plate and your torso. If you're like this, it's going to be harder and you're going to have to lean back more. So if you're doing a T-bar row at home, you probably want to have some sort of a wedge. And those are pretty cheap or easy to make or get because it'll help you press more back rather than more up and back, if that makes any sense at all. So I would have to see your form, Josh. Just send me a video if you can. What's your favorite Tricepticon? I like skull destroyers. So if I'm going to hit my triceps, it's going to be with cable tricep extension, skull destroyers, and close grip bench. I used to do single arm dumbbells, but I'm old and can't bend that way much anymore. I used to do the French press, right? French press, don't bend that way much anymore. One thing I like that I never used to like, I used to think the dumbbell kickback was like, excuse me here, I'm just telling you what I used to think. It was 1990, and I don't mean to sound insensitive or super woke, but I thought it was a girly exercise. an exercise girls did. But I want you guys to try something. I want you to get 2 dumbbells and do 4 sets of 15 on dumbbell kickbacks, both at the same time. Tell me if you can't feel that inner tricep working, that inner head. I like to use those as a finisher now. I like to do assisted triceps push-downs as well for high volume. I really like that exercise because I can really feel the tricepticons work. So those are basically the 5 that I really enjoy. If doing 2s with, say, 10, 12 rep goal, when you hit 12 and 12 plus and add 5 pounds, do you expect to be instantly be able to? Okay, here's what he means. This is basically from my massive mass system where you do 2 sets, okay? And the first set, in this case, you're using the same weight for both sets. So in this case, let's say you're doing dumbbell curls, okay? You do the first set for 10, you stop at a hard 10. Second set, you push for max safe reps. And if you hit 12 or more, the RG, the rep goal, then you move up and weight the next time, okay? So let's say you're doing dumbbell curls or whatever you're doing, and you hit 10, and then you hit 12. And then you move up. Should you expect to hit 10? Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. You probably should be pretty close to 10 because you hit 12 or more on the second set. So you probably, but it depends on the lift. You might hit 9, you might hit 8. But it doesn't matter because we're all about progression. When you step up in weight, you're going to step down in reps, and whatever that step down in reps is, that's okay. Big Kyle W. Trying to lose 60 pounds and my bench strength has been going down. That's normal, Kyle. That's absolutely normal. Like pressing takes a huge hit with weight loss, especially a lot of weight loss. How do I adjust for that? You can't. You got to get the weight off, Kyle. You got to get it down. If you don't have much to lose, you're probably not going to lose much strength. But when you have a lot of weight to lose, you got to get the presses out of your head. You have less glycogen in your muscles. You have less workout energy. And you're just going down, down, down. It's going to happen. It's the presses are the worst. So biggest thing is get the weight off and move on. When I lost 100 pounds, my bench went from like 430 to like, I don't know, 280 initially, and I got it back to 315. And eventually I got it back to 382 or 392. So I got it back 100 pounds less. But it's much easier to build a bench when you're in a calorie surplus. When you're in a calorie deficit, there's nothing magic you can do. Some guys that haven't built a lot of bench strength can see a really good increase on their bench while cutting because they're not strong. But if you're a pretty strong guy right now, there's a good chance you're going to lose some strength temporarily on your bench. Carol, what's your opinion about power building? I think this might sound silly, but I was kind of one of the people that invented the phrase, or I popularized it. I used it a lot back in the day, power building. And the modern context, I don't really care what it's used for because, I don't know, let me search. Let me search to see if I can see my first power building article. I see ones on muscle and strength. I think I had a power building article at Critical Bench way back in 2006. I was just one of these guys that kind of started using the term. And I'm patting myself on the back. It's just a term I use, right? And that's everything that muscle and brawn or massive iron is. We're about building muscle and strength. We're about hypertrophy and strength. So, not a troll question, but, right? What do they say about a but? When somebody puts a but in the sentence, you might want to duck. Not a troll question, but you said in all their videos, doesn't matter, fuck your program, 100% correct. But you seem to sell a lot of programs. Isn't that hypocritical? No, your program doesn't matter. That doesn't mean you don't need a program. Okay? Fuck your motorcycle. What are you talking about? If you want to take a motorcycle from New York to Hollywood, doesn't matter what motorcycle you use. No, fuck your motorcycle. Use the one you want. There's still rules in place, right? There's still rules in place. You need consistency. You need good nutrition. You need a good exercise selection. You need progressive overload. You need hard work. But that isn't dependent on any specific program. So fuck your program. Fuck your program means there are no magical programs. There are magical rules or pillars of success. So it's not hypocritical at all. We're not saying you don't need a program. Just go in the gym, dumb. Just go in the gym, make it all up, right? That's not what we're saying. That's not what we're saying at all. We're saying there's rules that matter. And fuck your program. Your program doesn't fucking matter. Your program is not magical. You know, you get these guys on the internet like, this is the best way to train. This is the only way to train. Fuck your program, right? The problem is people get obsessed with programs and they program hop and they program jump and they get obsessed with programs. Programs aren't the magic. They're a tool. You still need a tool to get the job done, but programs aren't magic, right? If you're going to fix a motorcycle, you need a toolbox, right? But I don't give a shit what company your tools are from. You still need a toolbox. You need a toolbox to build muscle and strength. You do. But it doesn't matter. People get obsessed with programs and program. If I move to the next program and adjust my reps from 3x8 to 5x5, I'm going to magically ignite gains. Fuck your program. Do you understand? It's not that you don't need a program. There are definitive rules in place that you need, and I've been talking about this forever on my channel. So if anything, you need to go back and watch every one of my videos so you understand. Okay? That's your weekend homework. Hey, I'm a student. My classes are about 25 hours with 7 hours of self-study a week. That's a lot. I still want to be able to go to the gym. How do you suggest? So what I would do, you have to focus on what you can control. Okay. You have limited time. Okay. Good. And you have goals. So when is the best time for you to work out? It might vary each day. So we want to maybe get 45-minute sessions in, out, 2 sets. So therefore 2 sets per exercise, probably a good idea. You can still progress. Maybe you can train every 3rd day. We can get the workouts down to 45 minutes. At a minimum, Rajveer, you want to think about getting in 2 workouts a week of 45 minutes of at least 2 hard sets per body part. If you can do that during that holdover stage that you're in right now, you can still see good results. I would probably put together 3 workouts and just move workout A, workout B, workout C, move on to rotate between those workouts and do the workout you can do next, when it makes sense. Does that make sense? And just try to do at least 2 per week. Find an hour and a half. Do it on a Sunday, first thing in the morning on a Sunday, maybe first thing morning on your lightest class day on a Wednesday. Good morning, Mike. Thanks for tuning in. Clo, you said food quality affects gains. Food quality affects health. Okay. Micronutrients matter. Food quality matters. I didn't necessarily say food quality affects gains. I said nutrition matters for health. So if we want to be in a world where we're taking care of ourselves and not just about, macros, or because the macros can be a cancer, right? Can be, not always, right? If it fits your macros, doesn't matter if I eat cakes, pies. Sorry, my chair's screwing all over the place. What I said was we can't just be about macros. We have to understand micronutrients. We have to fuel our body and take care of our body with nutrients. But most elite athletes don't. Oh, come on. Where are you getting this from? Dude, that's a crock of shit. Most elite powerlifters. Dude, I'm not I'm not coming after you, but that's the biggest crock of bull. That's one of the biggest crock of bullshits I've ever heard on live. I've been around powerlifters the last 20 years. Like most of them eat reasonably. Look at Freaky D, who I just had on. That dude eats better than most of you. I, I eat better than most of you, and I'm not bragging. It's just the way I eat. But this is nonsense. This is some fantasy world you created. If somebody eats a lot of calories, like somebody's just not eating 10,000 calories of Doritos and ice cream as an Olympian. Do you really believe that? At some point, you have to focus on calories. And you might have to get some dirty calories in to get your calories in, but that doesn't mean you don't have a base of micronutrients. So I think you couldn't be more incorrect. From everything I know of working with athletes, and I've had pro football players, baseball players, golfers, these guys take shit seriously, man. You're living in a fantasy world, some weird box you created from this construct called social media, YouTube, whatever. You're living in a fantasy world because nothing could be further from the truth. Most serious athletes take their nutrition seriously these days, more so than ever before, because they understand this is their career, right? Maybe Michael Phelps has a pizza, but look, when I was running 12 to 14 hours a week, I could eat a lot more, right? I needed to eat pizza, and a few beers didn't impact me because, dude, I'm burned through like 6,000 calories a day. So anyway, I'm not trying to be confrontational with you, but I'm going to be honest with you, man, that's a crock of shit. More than ever before, athletes are more tuned in to taking care of their bodies because they do not want to waste. Like it ain't 1973 where baseball players are popping uppers, in the speed in the dugout and smoking cigarettes, right? It ain't like that anymore. I think Timothy is referring to the safety squat bar that is adjustable. The point of I'd have to see it. There's so many different bars out that I'd have to see the bar. You said before that novices often make better gains on machines. Novices, it's not that barbells are bad. There's just a lower neuromuscular curve. It's not steep. So it's easier to make faster gains for novices with dumbbells and dumbbells and machines, because you can get it right in, you can adjust, you can start progressing. Barbells tend to be a little bit more complex from a neuromuscular adaptation standpoint, and form tends to be a little bit more nuanced, especially with squats and deadlifts. Bench and pressing, not as much. It's really lift dependent. RDLs, are a lift that takes people a while to learn. Man, period. Is it true that you've interviewed more natural bodybuilders than anyone else in the world? Probably, dude. I can't post them because they're on other. Hold on. Let me. Like when I was with Muscle and Strength, that was like athlete interviews. Okay, so let me just show you guys this. This is just one website. I did workout. I did interviews and profiles at Muscle and Strength, at Tiger Fitness, at Female Muscle, at Critical Bench, at Muscle and Brawn, on podcasts. I've worked in the industry, so these are just some of the people I've interviewed. This is my interview with Mr. Olympia Frank Zane, Josh. These are all old, kettlebell guy Joe Daniels. He's local. We go back and back. Some of these people, like you see Sean Clarita, the Giant Killer. I interviewed him way back when. Francisco Montealgre. Excuse me if I botched his name. He was a big natty pro back then. Not most of these are my interviews. I don't even remember most of them. Eric Brozer, CrossFit athletes. people claiming to be natty. Vic Costa. I actually went to New York to film with Vic Costa. Vic's Natural. Roger Waters, Natural Mr. Olympia. These are all my interviews, guys. Kazito Ejam, Marzia Prince. Man, you name it. Victor Iganu. That dude was a monster, man. Joseph Ning, or however you pronounce it. These are all mine. This is just Derek Charleboys, Obarike, Joe Franco. This is all my stuff, man. Natural bodybuilder Cleveland Thomas. I believe he was one of the best natties. This is we just rolling through time, man. Chad Shaw from Minnesota. A lot of old school names here. A lot of people that you probably don't remember. Pro Figure, Pro Fitness. These are just the competitors. Larry Bird. Look at it. Look, we got page 2, 3, 4. It goes on forever, man. Just forever, ever, and ever. Mighty Stu Yellen. I went to New York and was in his apartment. Sean Sully Sullivan competed over hundreds of times. Victor Iganu was a monster. When did I interview him? This is way back in summer of 2006. Look at that physique. Yeah, this is just one website. So I can't post them on here because I interviewed them for other people, but that's just the interviews I did at Muscle and Strength. That's not even the body transformation stories, right? And at Tiger Fitness, it got even bigger and more badass. I was doing creating content for John Meadows and Mike Rashid and all the big names. When I say creating content, we're working with them to develop content, training with Ronnie Coleman and Jay Cutler and all that kind of stuff. So I can't post them on here because I could post maybe a short referencing them to drive traffic, but it's not my intellectual property. I did that as somebody that worked for them, if that makes sense. When Alpha Destiny got down to 9%, he said his arms were only 15. When I am, if I get down to 15%, my arms are probably not going to be 17. So the leaner you get, the harder it is going to be the whole 15. So earlier, you guys came at me. Somebody came at me earlier. I can't remember. Like, why is Alpha Destiny still gaining? Okay. Well, I was bigger than him. I think the first 3 years out of the gate, and this is kind of an idea or kind of an echoing of that, right? My arms were bigger than that. So I just came out of the gate faster, and he had that's not a dig on him. I was just a little bit quicker out of the gate. Faz just posted a video about 5 habits of successful clients. What do you think of good habits of success are? Thank you, Max. I'll tell you, coaching is what I do full time. And I know who's probably going to be successful and who isn't. If somebody doesn't want to track, then they're just throwing darts at the wall. I can still work with them. We can still try to dial things in. We can still try to watch weight. I focus on what we can control. Some people don't want to monitor weight because they have eating disorders. So there's all different types of situations. But number one is passion. You can't fake it. Like, people that want to succeed don't get on a phone call and just start giving you their excuses. Okay. And this isn't something I talk about with people. But if you lead with your excuses, you're already done. Right? You think you're a special snowflake with circumstances and special excuses, you're done. You're already done. You're 100% over. Game over. You're done. Right? I don't have any time. I have this going on. Those who want it, make time, find time. Okay? So that's a habit, Well, I wouldn't call it a habit. I guess being self-aware enough to realize you're full of shit, right? if you're leading with your excuses. I guess that's a big part of it. Being self-aware. Am I leading with my excuses? Do I actually believe my excuses? Do I believe my excuses? If you believe your excuses, look, you're done. People that don't have passion, like chasing people for their workouts and their information, they should want to share that with you. They should want to share their exercise form videos. Let's get feedback, right? You can't fake that. So that's a big part of it. Wanting to track, wanting to know, wanting to grow, being passionate about it. And this is not a criticism of, because this is not for everybody. But, if people lead with there's two things. If people lead with their excuses, they're done. And people have no passion, they're done. They can still be healthy-ish. That doesn't mean they're going to get morbidly obese and die of diabetes or something, or heart disease. But not everybody has to track their steps, right, to be healthy. There are people out there that just walk, that never track their steps. So we have to kind of understand that as well. But physique building and strength building is body composition is a very specific thing. It's not just walking for health. We're trying to get very specific results. So if you want to have very specific results, you need to be able to monitor some things. We need some indicators and some analytics and some things we can change. Does that make sense? And it's the people I love to work with. Every day they're posting stuff, videos and workouts and workout notes, and they're passionate about these. I work with everybody. I work with people that are a struggle, but they have such a low chance of success because you can't make them want it, right? The greatest coach in the world can't make somebody want it. They have to want it themselves. I can't motivate you. You can maybe for a month. I'm working with a big, hairy, ugly dude. I'm super motivated for a month, and then I'm back to Doritos. Does that make sense? Christos. One of my favorite leg exercises is a ham raise and the back extension. What a great find. You're welcome. This is, I think, one of the most underrated. Let me see if I can find it here. And I think this is one of the most underrated exercises for the hamstrings. Maybe one of the most underrated exercises of all. Because you can do it on a back extension. You can kind of rig it up. It's hard to find the old back extension. That's Kasim and John Meadows. Okay, this is Kasim and John Meadows. Let me see if they're doing it the way I do it. There's Big Johnny Meadows. Rest in peace, my friend. Okay, so let's present the screen. All right, so I don't know that they're going to do it, but this is the back extension station we're talking about. Now, if you go down into a back extension position and you pop up upright where your shoulders are over your knees, that last movement is working your hamstrings. Does that make sense? So let's see if Big Johnny Meadows, he's just doing a back extension here.
You got more band.
But if he popped up
That's
on his
nice
knees
about a band.
where his shoulders went over, see right there, he's only going where his shoulders are parallel with his hips. If you pop up even more upright where your shoulders are over your knees, then you're going to work your hamstrings. And that's just a glorious exercise that not a lot of people know about. Your audio of you saying people probably won't ever hit 315. Yeah, it's been trending on TikTok for a year, but people don't a lot of people take it out of context, and that's fine. Most people won't hit 315. I'm not trying to, you guys know me. I'm not trying to discourage people. I'm not trying to say it's impossible or set it out as a challenge or say no one can do it. It's just hard. That's the reality. You guys see many people under 180 pounds benching 315. I'm not trying to limit you. I'm trying to encourage you to set that as a standard. So, but, when I made the video, it was basically, I think I was talking about bench press lies. And the point of the video was to kind of tell you guys it's okay if you don't bench 315 because it's more rare than you think. Yes, there's 500 people out there doing it, and I'm sure they all made TikTok videos. That's great. But I'm trying to relieve the pressure. As someone that coaches for a living, 315 benches are super rare. They are. And people can make all the tiki-takis and all the twitters and twatters and tutors they want, but it can't bend reality. John Paul, is working out actually for mental well-being when missing a workout makes some people depressed? Is working out actually for mental? Isn't this an addiction? Doing things that are positive for our mental well-being isn't an addiction. We like the feeling of feeling good. An addiction is something that is negative or destroying, right? That can ruin relationships. Like people that do things so obsessively that it destroys their health, their relationships. So, no, this is just a good habit. And I miss when I work out because I feel good and I feel good about myself. Seen about 10 videos with that audio, I'm sure. They'll move on to something else in a couple weeks. Mitch, I'm about 11% body fat. My arms are just over 16 inches. Well done. I'm not found sissy squats hard on the knees. Are you talking about old school or the little piece of machine, the little piece of equipment? Thoughts on training in briefs and wraps year round? You're 56, so I've messed around with loose briefs for about a year. Helped in the hole a little bit. But the funny thing is, and this might just be random, but about the year I messed around with briefs, I had hip tightness. So I don't know what happened during that time. It was during a time when, after I had lost weight, where my strength was coming back up in squats. And I don't know if the hip tightness, that was the only time I thought I was developing hip arthritis at the time. This was like 7-8 years ago. I don't know if it was from just getting back into heavy squats or using the briefs. So just I'm not against it. Just get loose briefs and just listen to your hips. Yvonne, for bulldozer rest pause sets, what would you expect a typical rep drop off? It depends on the muscle group. But if you're keeping a tight rest, 50% is not unusual. When I originally did it, I would do expanding rest periods. So I would do 30, 30, 60, 90. My rest periods were longer back in the day, and I would still see a drop off of the big lifts. So it's hard to say, but you kind of reach a stabilization point almost 3 or 4 sets in, where it's almost, are almost all Olympic champions drug cheats? I don't know, man. I'm not being dismissive, but honestly, this is a lifting channel, and I know I asked for off-topic questions, but I don't know. Mark, been through the history of worked hard daily. Any reason you can't lift 2 hours a day? Yeah, there are reasons. Number one, if you're working hard, you're going to pick up cumulative fatigue. It's romantic to envision these guys just training like freaks 6-7 days a week, but I'm pretty sure they listen to their body and rest it as needed. 2 hard workouts for me, and I need a third day of rest. You can get overuse injuries. That's very, so on paper it sounds very, very romantic, but for the average individual, that's going to beat the living crap out of your body. So, Simeon Panda claims he. I love the word. Whenever we see the word claims, we're like, uh-oh, we're about to enter a house of horrors, right? Claims that he was below average genetics. That's not unreasonable. And he worked out way harder than Arnold. Oh, come on, dude. Put your balls back in your pants. And that's why he's full of shit. Liz lives. Hey, Steve, any tips for squatting with long femurs? It's a struggle to get hip. It can be a challenge. It really can be. What I need to do is look at a squat. It's usually minor adjustments. What I typically do is start with a goblet squat or a yoga squat, and let's see what we can do without a weight on your back. Let's see what kind of adjustments we need to do that aren't physically punishing. That's where I start, just right at the basics. I was on a phone call with a client this week, a female client that's struggling to hit depth. And we had to basically go down to 95 pounds and move things around, and so I would have to see a squat because it's really no one size fits all answer. How's the music going? I don't really do music anymore. The music I have out makes me like $30 a year, so not even enough for a good drink. How many sets would you recommend for legs? Hamstrings, one session. Hamstrings, usually if you look in the context of a week and all the muscle groups, usually 6 sets is reasonable after leg work and deadlift work. 9 sets if you have the time and you really want to work on your hammies. How much do test levels matter? Not really. I know a lot of guys with low tests that have a lot of muscle. Your genetic limit is more muscular in nature, more physiologically determined. Just by your, it's not just test levels. Test levels help. The lifters get bigger, like testosterone, because of enhanced muscle protein synthesis and all this kind of stuff, pulling more water in the cells. But for naturals, it doesn't really matter much. Look, there's women out there that have incredible physiques with just a trivial percentage of the testosterone that men have. What age do you think you will start to notice a decline in performance? Some of it can be injury related. So it's really, really hard to say. Injury is a bigger issue for more people than anything. So, but we also have to be smarter. I mean, we all pick up cumulative wear and tear over time. And I would say probably after 50, we have to be more careful. I think you can still perform really well in your late 50s. Beyond that, you probably need to be a little bit more aware and a little bit more careful. That doesn't mean you can't lift heavy. I've seen 75-year-old men benching 365, but I used to count calories, but now intuitive eating's working quite well for me. Do you think it's feasible? I think you need an idea of what's going in your mouth. If the weight's coming off, that's fine. It's very complex. It's a complex question to answer because everybody is different. And it's not a cop-out, but, just to throw a blanket over everyone's head and say you're under the intuitive eating blanket, one person's going to be successful, 20 will fail. I'm just saying that as a generalization. So if it's working for you, great. But you're obviously going to have to be eating healthy, and you're going to need rules in play. Big Bill, happy Friday. Thank you, Bill. Thanks for joining in. Let me get a drink here. Zed. Love your advice. Thank you. I'm 6 months into my journey, and you helped me be consistent. Good job. Glad to hear it, and I'm glad to be a part of that. I have an issue. I blew up my chest. I blew up, but my chest don't follow. I do 9x2 chest sets a week. I'd like to look at your programming. Look, the chest is a muscle group that we expect to get big and full like Arnold, right? And most people don't have that. They just have flat, thin pecs. So we have to understand the pecs are, unless we're like puffing them up, they're not usually a prominent muscle group. We think they are, but they're generally not. So if you want to send me a picture, I can kind of, give you a fair analysis. But I'd be curious to see what you're doing from an exercise selection as well. You got a long way to go, my friend. That's not an insult. A couple more years of training, 6 months, you can have a little bit of improvement, but you got a long way to go. It could be that your triceps are much stronger than your chest, and your chest is taking a little bit to catch up. I'm getting headaches during those total grind. They can be. Exertion headaches can be trivial for a very short period of time, or they can be extended. I've had one for 3 or 4 months, so they can definitely be. Adonis, during the 7,500 kilometer year of running, it wasn't a year, it was multiple years, 3 or 4 years. How often did you run? 5 days a week. How did you balance it with lifting? I was lifting about 3 days a week. Averaging 12 whole year seems insane. 12 miles a day. I'm not that fast, dude. I'm a turtle. Oops, I just bumped my microphone. Sorry. So this is trail running, number one. We're going up and down hills and in the rain and in the snow and in the valleys and over the hills and through the meadows and all that kind of stuff. So it's slower than you think. I loved it, man. I loved it. I enjoy it. Is it hard? Yeah. It's definitely hard. But it's just something I like being out in the woods, so I didn't really find it a grind. How did recovery hold up? Fine. I mean, I could run basically just like lifting. I find I can run or lift 2 hard days in a row, and I need a third day off. I don't make running videos on this channel because when I do, no one really watches it. So, I tend not to talk about it more than just general questions on live. Joining Team Massive is the most anabolic choice you can make. I would like to think so, right? But if you guys want to join Team Massive, head over to teammassiveiron.com. Where are we? Paul, Big Paul. New reactive slingshot PR today. Nice work. Real close to 225, so keep grinding. I'd like to see that 225. I started at 105 105 at 5'7", now I'm 160. How much of my weight gain? Most of it's going to be normalizing. You could have 5 to 10 pounds of muscle. It's really hard to say. Some of that could be muscle, normalizing, your body normalizing with muscle mass. So it's really hard to say. I'd have to look at before and after photos and assess body fat percentage, and I could make a little bit better guess. What's the most common mistake you see in your form reviews? The most common mistakes come from squats and RDLs. RDL is one of the most abused lifts, and people just don't know it because, quite honestly, there's not a lot of coaches out there that know how to coach the RDL correctly. Squats, if you sit in a chair and you push your knees in, it'll feel differently than if you push your knees out. When you push your knees out, you can feel your glutes more. People, when they squat, tend to try to squat with their legs pushed together, like kind of breaking almost, bracing themselves so they go down. You have to actually do the opposite. You have to push out. That's the most common squat issue. And people thinking they have to squat, wide stance because they saw their idol do that. RDLs, you have to slowly go down and load your hamstrings, and they're just generally, I don't think 98% of the coaches or trainers in this industry, excuse my language, know fuck all about training an RDL. I think it's one of the most abused exercises. And it's not your guys' fault. The coaches and trainers just don't know what they're doing. Speaking of natty potential, how many even get there? A lot, but probably the same amount of people I get through a 315-pound bench at 160. But good grief, if you say it's hard to get, I'm going to say it's hard to get the natty potential. Then people are going to make a TikTok, tweeter, twatter, tutor, right? And I did it. Like, congrats. I didn't say it was impossible. I just said it's a very challenging standard. In terms of splits, I've found that body part splits are better for me because I waste less time. Yeah, I mean, once you get that first warm-up set done, there's not a lot of warm-ups. So full body work, when you become semi-strong, is going to involve a lot more warm-up sets, or the warm-up time can potentially get more tedious. Imagine having to do warm-ups for bench, and then having to do warm-ups for squats, and then warm-ups for pendlay rows. Harut, doing unilateral, start with weaker side, got 7 reps, switch to stronger side, got 7 and can do 8. When I'm doing unilateral work, I usually stop at the weaker side. That's just the way I do it. Puerto Rico. All of the routines out there, push-pull legs, torso, limbs, which do you naturally gravitate to? Body part. I just love body part. I like to be able to laser focus on one area and just destroy it. Boss. I had 225 on bench. Progression slowed a bit. That's natural. How can I make sure I don't plateau? You're not going to plateau. Plateaus are basically non-existent ghosts we create that are silly. Your gains are going to slow. How can I assure you're going to get the 315? I can't. Unless you believe TikTok, not everybody gets the 315. But you're going to continue to progress. You have to be smart about your training. You have to probably eat in a calorie surplus a little bit. It's hard to build a bench when you're in a calorie deficit or you don't pay good attention to your nutrition. I have some bench press tools. You could head over here and search bench press. Some different bench press routines that can help. I've noticed you don't mention incline bench. It's not that I don't like them. Incline dumbbell bench is harder to get the dumbbells in place. So serious lifters tend to run out of leg room quicker on them. I don't really like clients. When I put a bench in their program, I don't care if they use incline bench. I have nothing against it, right? It's just a personal thing. The reason why I don't overly mention it, Josh, is because people can get obsessed about building their upper pecs, right? If I just do incline. And I think if you have a good bench, dumbbell bench, and overhead dumbbell and barbell variations, your upper pecs are going to be fine. I think some of it's slightly over worrying, but I have nothing against, I used to do regular bench one week and an incline bench the next. I have nothing against it. I've seen guys claim, since I can do 315 deficit stiff leg deadlifts, that means I can do a 5. I think you're right. Only the exact claims don't mean anything. Like, that's just everybody whipping out their balls in a room, and it's like whipping out your balls in a room and trying to talk about how good you are at sex. Look at my big balls, right? That's nice. You have big balls. Doesn't mean anything. That's the best analogy I could come up with. In other words, I believe that the actual heavyweight, you can have different strengths and weaknesses, and you might be better off at a stiff leg deadlift, but that doesn't mean you get a 500-pound deadlift. If you don't lose much weight on a cut, then why do FFMIs go down when people are very lean versus bulked? I don't know what you're saying. Who's not losing much? Oh, if you don't lose much muscle on a cut, you don't lose much muscle on a cut. You don't lose really anything at all. Science tells us that if you're training normally, you're not going to really lose hardly any muscle at all, if any. Why do fat-free mass index? I don't know, man. I'm not staring at fat-free mass indexes. So all I can tell you is you're not losing muscle on a cut unless you stop lifting or you do something ridiculous. I don't care about random arbitrary FFMIs. You're not losing muscle on a cut. Samson, what's your opinion on dumbbell flies? Usually, for a lot of people, they can be hard on the shoulders. Cable flies tend to have more of a limited progression opportunity. Pec deck tends to have better feel, easier on the shoulders, and more progression opportunity. Dumbbell flies are a personal thing. If you like them and they don't beat up your shoulders, use them. Everyone, please send your respect and smash that like button. Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. Wrist hat. As someone who's been overweight in the past, if I feel like I can easily maintain 75 kilos, is it better or worse for me to cut down to 65 before the next one? That's a big chunk. Alexa, how many pounds is 65 kilos?
7,065 kilograms.
Alexa, stop. Alexa, how many pounds is 65 kilos? Alexa, how many pounds is 65 kilos?
65 kilograms is about 143 pounds.
That's a lot of weight to lose, dude. 143, way too low. 75 is pretty normal. So I don't look feeling, how you feel. I mean, we have to fat memory. You have fat cells, but you're not going to get fat unless you really overeat. I wouldn't bulk down 10 kilos. 143 is pretty lean. So that's your call, dude. But that's way low. How many pull-ups do you think you can do? 5. I know exactly how many I can do. Repeating myself, but thank you, Coach, for the answers. I appreciate you watching. Thank you. What do you think about this back day for a bro split? Barbell row, dumbbell row, pull-ups, cable row. Yeah, I'd snuggle with it. Goku Black. I've started a conjugate training system, and guys are at the gym have been telling me it's okay. God, look, I'm not a fan of conjugate. Okay, I'll just tell you that right now. I'm not saying it's awful, but guys at the gym can go fuck themselves, right? Most of those guys will never accomplish anything. No disrespect, man. So do what you want to do and do it hard and give absolutely zero fucks about guys at the gym. My gym doesn't have room for a barbell overhead press unless you take up the only squat rack. Do you think a seated BTN press on the Smith? In that case, yeah, just listen to your shoulders. Do you think limb lengths and leverages is something an intermediate lifter should care about? No. You do an exercise and then you adjust based on limb lengths and leverages. Bull in a vagine shop. Whatever you have time for and whoever cranks your tractor. Thank you. Thoughts on a 250 calorie deficit instead of, we're just tossing out numbers here, and this is all arbitrary and meaningless. A small deficit usually doesn't cut weight very effectively. I'll say that. Like if you are maintaining at 2,500 and you think it's simple math and you're going to drop 250 calories and lose weight, you're probably not going to lose it very quickly. Usually you have to jump on a pretty chunky deficit to get the old weight loss rolling. Raphael, is it a scientific fact that ham and pineapple are the great? Pepperoni, man. When I have pizza, I have old school pepperoni and new pepperoni at Marco's. Y'all can take that pineapple, turn it sideways. You know what I'm saying? What's the best sex position for optimal cardio? I would ask your mom. That's all I got. Troy, shoulder injury means I can only tolerate using an incline. Is my chest doomed? No. Incline a hammer. I mean, do what you can do and do it hard. There's got to be something else we can do. Just a fun question. If someone changed a general program every week, they would have different. they would spend a lot of time acclimating to the demands of that specific program. So you do a bro split and you start with chest on Monday, and then you finish up with chest on, I don't know. Uh, Fun question, but it's you could be fine if you programmed it in. You just have to make sure if you use the same variables like you're using bench threes or whatever, it'd probably be all right. But this, no offense, Josh, but like stuff like this makes my head hurt, right? It just does. What do you think about the trap bar for squat? Not for squat. You can't really do a trap bar for squat. Trap bar deadlift is fine. It's a reasonable lift for the home gymmer who wants to protect their lower back. So a trap bar is going to be more of a unicorn lift. It's going to be more quad focused, but it's not really a leg exercise. It's still more of a full body exercise. How do you load these? How do you load what? I'm sorry. Nicholas, what do you recommend if a lifter is starting to have a bad knee pain? Man, that's tough. If you're having pain, you need to listen to it. You probably need to deload a week, or not necessarily a hard deload, but if you drop weight back 10% and during warm-ups, something's not right, you're going to have to really have a long conversation with yourself because you do not want to risk a long-term injury. What's the biggest difference in training for people who just want to be healthy? Healthy is just movement, but it requires some degree of, bone density and strength. So you want to be healthy, you have to do some resistance training, but you're basically going to be holding steady the whole time. Like Zumba, girls going to Zumba and do the 8-pound weights or whatever they're doing. They build up some strength better than sitting on the couch, but that's good for health, but it's not good for really how you look. What's the biggest difference in training for people who just want to? Oh, we just did that. Sorry. To work your hams, do you drive your knees into the pad on a back extension? When you're doing a back extension, basically you think about curling the last portion up with your hamstring. It's just like a hamstring curl, if that makes sense. On hacks, do you push through your heels? I don't know. I focus more on my quads, so I don't really think about heels as much as I do just getting deep and then pushing out, locking out with my quads. On the FFMI, lean versus bulk, it's you not holding as much water. Yeah, I mean, look, when you drop weight, you drop waste. When you're dropping weight, you're eating less carbs, generally less electrolytes, so you're going to lose inflammation from the water. So all kinds of things are going to be different. David, thank you, David. I appreciate it. How much anatomy knowledge do we really need? Not much at all. Just be a meathead. It's easier, right? Don't overthink it like a lot of these guys on the worldwide interwebs. Any tricks for dealing with hunger on a cut? Suck it up. That's the biggest tip. Like, I'm just being honest with you. Like, people that are hungry on a cut, and I'm not saying you, like, I get hungry on a cut. Get over it. You're going to be hungry. You got to pick your time. Some of these people eat all day during the day and then they're hungry at night. You want to make sure you're hungry. I like being hungry when I'm active. Like right now, I like the 2.5 hours I'm doing this. I'm hungry right now, but it's not like I can just eat, right? So I like being hungry when I'm more active. You have to pick your poison. Something that worked really well for me is figuring out what time of day you get hungriest and schedule calories. Yeah, eat according to your habits. Some people need to eat less during the day so they can save more at night. You gotta pick a time when you're going to be hungry and work with your habits. Is running better to do the day before? If I'm doing hypertrophy, I'm going to run after. Strict hypertrophy, I'm probably going to run the day after. Is chewing gum anabolic for jaw muscles? I I don't know. Ask your local dentist. What do you mean by unicorn lift? I mean, of all the lifts, I call a deadlift and a hex bar deadlift a unicorn lift, meaning they're not really focused on one body part area more than another. Like a squat is a full body exercise, yes, but it's more of a quad exercise. A deadlift and a hex bar deadlift are going to work your back. They're going to work your quads. They're basically going to work everything. By unicorn lift, I mean they're in their own unique category. They work different areas, and we can't really fit them into it. A lot of people want to put deadlifts on a leg day, or we have to be cognizant of the fact that it's more of a special lift. And I put it on back day mostly because it's helped with my back a lot, back development, and B, you don't really want squats and deadlifts on the same day. You want to space them out, so it makes more sense for it to be on a back day. How do you load the glute ham raise on a back extension? You can hold a plate to your chest, 10-pound, 25, 45-pound plate, or a dumbbell or a kettlebell. Aber, thank you. Just to follow up, 65 sounds low. It is low, but I'm only 5'7". Alexa, how many pounds is 65 kilos?
65 kilograms is about 143 pounds.
So for every inch above 5'7", you can add like 4 to 5 pounds to your frame. So 143 would be cutting for the equivalent of me cutting down to 158. And that's pretty low. Okay, so still pretty low. I'm not saying it's too low, but just if you want to cut down there, that's fine. Just build back up. According to my weight scale of 5'10", 178, what do you think is a good weight I should shoot for? If you're going to bulk, I would shoot for 190 because the first 2 months or first couple of pounds are going to be water, first 2-3, and then that leaves you a little bit of room to bulk. Thank you. You bet. I appreciate it. Even though I slightly look, we'd get along in person. I'm not an angry guy, and I don't really get triggered. I'm always honest with you guys. I am. So just always know that I'm always going to give you the best advice I can. And I mean nothing but goodwill to everybody. How do I save my shins during RDLs? You're doing RDLs wrong. The bar shouldn't be that low, really. So send me your RDL form. All right, guys, that's it. Thank you. We're out of here. I appreciate it. If I missed your question, head over to Instagram at @BenTheBarman. If you are interested in coaching, T-shirts, massive creatine, massive whey protein, or a good workout, I got tons of great workouts over at superlivingtoday.com. All right, guys, thanks for watching, and we are out of here.
It's not almost over. It's not almost over. You're not almost there. You're not almost there. You're not almost there.